Shalom again, everybody. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com, bringing to you today's daily lesson in the Sefer Yetzirah. Today is lesson number 42. And of course, we dedicate these lessons to the health, safety, well-being, and prosperity of everyone around the world today, facing all the trials and tribulations and obstacles, praying, hoping, everybody, every one of us should recognize and see opportunity in obstacles, because that is actually the foundation of everything that our Sefer Yetzirah is going to talk about. We are now holding in the second chapter, Mishna 4, according to Rabbi Hayim Wital's version of the text. And today, we're going to introduce the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the system. Right now is really in my longer 40-hour course. We expanded upon this in great detail to get into the prophetic applications of how you use this system. Well, Rabbi Hayim has his own unique way of doing that, and that's what we're going to explain in this class. Now, as you will see here, I have a handout, a worksheet, that is going to outline, or if you will, summarize what we're going to deal with in today's class. This will be online, KosherTorah.com/PDF, all in caps, /SY20.42, the class number, .PDF. You'll see the in the text down below, or hopefully be able to just click and it should be online. And I would encourage you, print this out now before I continue with the class so that you can actually have it in front of you, because some of this might be a little technical. But then again, in reality, life itself is technical. Up until now, we have been talking about the power of the Belima Sefirot coming into our world of three-dimensional space. We've spoken about the individual letters, and we spoke about their individual powers. Remember, we said the right, the left, the center. We call that right the Hesed, the left Din, and the center the balance. So we've established all of these now energetic forms. Fine, cool, and groovy. I understand now all the energies. Okay, what do I do with it? How do I put it into practice? This is the key. This is it. The 231 gates. And even that number itself is a rather, not fully explanatory number. But let's go into the text, and I read. 22 otiyot yasod. Remember, like the Sefirot are called the Belima, the letters are called Yasod, meaning from the combination not of symbols but of sounds. Sound combinations, like we discussed yesterday, and if you will, the Kabbalah or science of music. Sound combination, consider them like notes. You have the E, the F, the G, and all the rest. Those are kind of like the letters. And we can combine all these different letters with their individual sounds in various different combinations. That creates for us the music. So essentially, when we discuss the creation of the universe being, if you will, a spoken expression of God, don't think of it so literally like we read in the Bible, and God said, Yihi Or. Rather, understand that the words Yihi Or, let there be light, was sung by God. It had its own ta'am, like we said, the cantillations, the ta'amim. It had its own expression of energy, which the combinations of which actually brought forth, materialized the reality. And when we say brought forth and materialized, let's recognize what we're talking about. We create the vessel through the sound oscillations. That itself is energy. But then it has to be imbued with that spirit of life, which we call the Sefirot Belima, all right? And then Beli without Ma, But then they go into the letters, which themselves are ma, if you will, essence. And that combines the two, and that unites what we call heaven and earth, and creates the structure of our reality as we understand it. So when you tap into the higher energies and you create the proper form, you have the merging, and comes forth, we call the child of birth, life itself. So that is how it works. Now, what do we have? What do we do? The text states here, Kava'an begelgal kemin homa berala sha'arim, that the letters, they are established in a wheel. And this wheel is like a wall, which itself has 231 gates. The hozer agalgal panim v'hor, and the wheel returns back onto itself front and back. What on earth are we talking about? This is what we're talking about. In every system, and in my longer 40-hour course, I teach other versions of this system. Rabbi Hayim's is more elaborate, I would say. It's more detailed. Let me just make something very, very clear here. When we're dealing with this or other systems, and as you're going to see as I elaborate how involved this gets, right from the start, don't think that this is a single technique or practice that you actually sit down at one time to perform from beginning to end. As you're going to see here from this text, we're going to have a combination of over 53,000 letter forms. And each one, remember, has to be with the deep breath in that singing type of tone. How long do you think it would take you to do that? I've never bothered to try to count. Of course, I've never sat there to try to do 53,240 letter forms all at once. Nor would I. That's crazy. Understand. What we are dealing with here is the structure of a system. And as we describe here, I will explain and elaborate how it's done. So, this is what Reb Hayim says. You have each and every letter, right? This here is a copy from Sefer Yetzirah of Reb Hayim. And you'll see how every line begins with the letter Aleph. Look at the first line. If you need to pause and zoom in, then do so. You see in the first line, the order of the letters as they are in the natural form of the alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, etc. Go into the second line, and you'll see the same again. Aleph starts, but instead of the letter Bet being there, it's with Gimel. Go to the third line. It's the Aleph and then with a Dalet. Next line, Aleph with the Hey. Next line, Aleph with the Vav. You see the pattern. So Aleph is with all the beginning letters, because this is called here, he calls this here Partsuf Aleph. This is all with the letter Aleph. All 22 letters going down are united with the letter Aleph, which is the first. So you have Aleph, Bet, Aleph, Gimel, Aleph, Dalet, Aleph, Hey, Aleph, Vav, Aleph, Zayin, etc., going all the way down. And then after Aleph, Bet, you have Gimel, Dalet, Hey going through the letters. After Aleph, Gimel, you have Dalet, Hey, Vav going through all the letters. Next, you have Aleph, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin going through all the letters, continuing in each and every line. At the end of the line, in the first one, obviously, you have the letter Tav. But at the end of this line, the Tav is the second. Why? Remember we started here, Aleph and Gimel? Well, what do we do with the Bet? We just don't throw it in the garbage. We put it at the end of the column. There's your Bet. And the next one, Aleph, Dalet. What do we do with the missing Bet and Gimel? Here they are at the end of the line. So each line you will see is getting shorter and shorter and shorter in the normal order of the letters, with all the extra letters growing on the second side. So you have one side, all the letters as they normally are, and the second side, all the, in quote, peripheral letters, which come after the combination going down. Yeah, it might be a little technical, but I think you can figure it out. You could read my description here. It describes everything. What this system is showing us is exactly here. Kava'an bagalgal kimin huma. They are established, as he says, in a wheel, in a cycle, meaning that all the letters are combined with all the other letters. And this forms a wall, right? This is not a circle. It looks like a wall. What can I say? 231 gates, meaning 231 letters. But each of these letters, like I said, has an order and structure in accordance to our understanding of the forward direction of the alphabet. And then you have the opposite letters, like I said here, okay? On the other side, going down here, the remaining letters. Now, they're not backwards, but they are on the other side of the final tav, shin tav there. You can see going down the column there. And that forms what we call its mirror reflection, or its backside. Understand, with all things, they come from a singular source. And all things in combination can either become the highest heights or the lowest low. Now, this is actually a very, very deep secret in the teachings of the Kabbalah, specifically with regards to what we understand as the reality of evil. As you know, unlike our Christian and even Muslim neighbors who have expanded and elaborated on the concepts of good and evil, almost in comparison to earlier Zoroastrian teachings, in which you had the good God versus the bad God, and they're duking it out for eternal control of your souls, and that there's a place called heaven, and then there's a place called hell, and in the afterlife you either go to heaven eternally for happiness or hell eternally for perdition, whatever. I mean, these are the concepts that keep those members of that faith in fearful alignment with the religious tenets and, of course, directives of their religious leaders. Not for me to comment, just to observe. Our Torah tradition is very different. If you look very clearly in the Torah, the Jewish Bible, for example, Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7, God himself says, right, prophecy through the prophet Isaiah, God is the author, the source of both good and evil, light and darkness, day and night. God is the author, creator of them all. There is no other kingdom out there. When we read in the book of Job, which granted is a novel and not history, but nonetheless puts the Satan character in its place, just being one of the other Bnei Elohim, whose job it is to report. He's the original snitch, if you will. What a great angelic role to play. But he has no power other than that. So good and evil, where do they really reside other than inside us? When we refer to the higher self of the human species, we refer to our higher self as being or represented by the archangel Metatron. All right. I know I'm elaborating so much here, and I've taught this in so many other courses, but even when you read in Messianic literature, and we refer to the concept of the Son of Man, that wasn't some weird, elaborate Messianic concept. It just meant human being. We are the human beings, but the higher expression of humanity is both good or evil. So in elaborated, metaphorical, and only symbolic teaching, where we elevated the archetype and only the archetype and not the reality of the angel who we call here the Satan. We gave him a name, call him Samakel. And we say that he is the twin brother of the higher Adamic self, the son of man, called Metatron. Yes, Metatron, Samakel, like Jacob and Esau. They are supernal twins. What does that teach us? No, there's no real Metatron and Samakel. They're not out there fighting and duking it. Again, we're talking symbolic metaphor to explain what happens within us. And that is exactly the application here of letters. Because in our minds and through our vibrational mentality of meditation, we either create the positive through the combination of letters and the positive through or materializing that face called Metatron, or we, through a reversal of the order, can actually create its opposite and materialize that archetype symbolic face, which we call Psalm or the devil. It's all within us. It's not out there. It's in us. And this is why it says right here in the continuing of the text, Siman ledavar. Here's a sign of what we're talking about. Ein betova lamala me'oneg. There is nothing on the side of good better than pleasure. Ubera ein bera'a lamata me'nega. And nothing worse on the side of bad other than a plague. Now the word for oneg, ayin nun gimel, is the same letters as nega nun gimel ayin in reverse. Okay, you take the letters, you flip them around, and you have the highest and the lowest. Now, this is something also elaborated in other Kabbalistic literature when we talk about our surrender to God. We call God, that which the highest self, we call that Ein, like God is the Ein Sof. The word Ein, which is the supernal nothing, is spelled with the Hebrew letters Aleph, Yod, and Nun. Whereas me, myself, my ego, is called I. I is spelled with the Hebrew letters Ani, or for the word Ani, Aleph, Nun, Yud. Same letters. They both begin with the Aleph, but you reverse the order of the Yud and the Nun and make it Nun, Yud, and Ani below ascends to Ain above. Nega, plague below, ascends to Oneg, pleasure above. When we combine these letters, Aleph with them all, and all with Aleph, which is what you'll get into the next Mishna and stuff, you have all these different combinations. So again, this is not 231 letters. This is actually double that. Because on one side, going down, you have the 231. And then on the other side, you got another 231. And this is all beginning with the letter Aleph. You can do this exact same formula with each of the 22 letters. So you have 22 times 22, and then times 22. And then we add in the vowels to give each letter its different resonance and sound. 5 vowels. They're called the base vowels, the seals. And then you have to take this system, 22 times 22 times 22, 5 times over. You'll get a total of 53,240 letters. Now, like I said, you don't sit and do that all at one time. But when you need to contemplate some concept, some idea, you pick and you choose different letters and you combine them with different sounds and vowels. And then you contemplate its resonance within you. This is the secret of how the system really works. You take combinations of letters. How many? 2,000, whatever you're doing at the time. And you vibrate their sound with the proper musical tonage. You allow its movement to flow within you. That creates the song. And as you're doing that, you're experiencing what that combination is, whether it's good or evil or somewhere in between. And as you explore the 53,240 different letters and sounds and different multiple combinations, you will discover which combinations work together for the good, which combinations work together for the bad. And needless to say, this is a path of discovery, which is a lifetime process. Enough. I've ran out of time for today. Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll pick up and talk more about the gates in our next class. Ariel Tzadok here, KosherTorah School, KosherTorah.com. Looking forward to seeing you online soon. Shalom.